So Donald Trump, not in these exact words, but basically admitted this week that a lot of the things that he's been doing, a lot of the policies, a lot of the executive orders that he's been signing off on was all made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. It was made with the intention of getting black people back into the field. All right, so on Tuesday, Donald Trump made an appearance, right, on CNBC's Squawk Box. And on that platform, he actually made a lot of commentary in regards to the situation with the deportations, migrant workers, the state of America's agriculture, and he made comments on inner city people not doing farm work. I want you to always remember that when they mention inner city, that means black. In Donald Trump's exact words, people that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They've tried. We've tried. Everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. They don't get a bad back because if they get a bad back, they die. He also went on to say that they are very, very, very special people and they cannot be easily replaced. Remember what I said, anytime that they mention the words inner city people, inner city communities, inner city neighborhoods, that's black. That's code for black. Black, blackity black, okay? Black people. And it is because of that exact commentary that it reconfirms for me, okay? Not confirms, but reconfirms, meaning that I already knew. But it reconfirms that the plan from the very beginning with these executive orders, right, was to further destabilize black communities, further destabilize poor communities, but black mainly, so that you could put pressure on these communities so that you could get them to go back into the field, right? And then once you get them back in the field, bingo, you've made America great again. Modernize slavery. But black people said, fuck you and this little game that you want to play. Since we are the most valuable player on the scoreboard, we will remove ourselves and let's see if this game is still going to continue. And that's in fact what we're seeing right now. Donald Trump thought that by forcing all of these other people out, taking away our Medicaid, doing all of these things to further destabilize our community, that we would conform, that we would just do what he wants us to do, what the whites of this world, what white supremacy wants us to do. But black people decided to pull a Uno reverse and they did nothing, which is something that they're not used to black people doing. They're used to black people having this spirit of rebellion, having this spirit of revolution. But instead, black people decided that, you know what, I'm going to preserve my energy for me and my people, but I'm also going to remove myself from this game entirely. And now everything is starting to crumble. The way that the America agriculture is taking a huge hit right now because of Donald Trump and his deportations. Like, I don't think that you understand how much America survives off of the labor of undocumented workers. And when I say y'all, I mean all the other races. Black people knew because black people were telling you. They told you, don't do this. Don't do this because we're not going back in the field. Don't do this, but y'all didn't listen. And just to put into retrospect of how important undocumented migrant workers are to the agriculture economy here in America, the U.S. Department of Agriculture reports that roughly 42% of crop workers are undocumented, with nearly 70% being foreign-born. This labor is essential in states like California and Texas, where up to 80% of farm workers lack legal status. Donald Trump signed off on a lot of these executive orders back in January. It is now August, and in between that time, he has done a parade of chaotic shit, trying to put pressure on the black community, but the black community has refused to fold. They have not folded. And it's not just the black community, but the legal Hispanic community here, the legal Latinos here, the Browns, and every other race that sees what this administration has been trying to do from the very beginning. They have not folded. And because of that, everything that he has signed off on in January is starting to bite him in the ass in August. And to all of you people out there that had so much to say in regards to the black community and the 92% and them actually deciding to stand down and not participate, to not get involved, to protect their peace, all of the critiques that you had on their decision, let this be your example. Let this be your primary example as to why you should stay the fuck out of black people business. Stay the fuck out of black people business. You had so much to say in regards to our decision and wanting to stand the fuck back and deciding to remove ourselves from this entire game altogether, right? Now you see that black people actually knew what the fuck they were doing. They knew what the fuck they were doing. They told you were going to need these people because they weren't doing it anymore. They told you they wasn't going to do it anymore. You still got rid of them people. You still got rid of the migrants. You still did and went through with the mass deportations, and now you guys want food. But you thought that the black people was going to get into the field. No, they wasn't going to do it. They wasn't going to do it. They wasn't going to do it. And now you see why they decided from the very beginning, oh, I see how this is going to play out. Exit stage left.
I just saw a copy of a tweet that was from Curtis Yarvin, and I feel like I probably don't need to explain to y'all who that is. So it was Curtis Yarvin responding to a tweet, and in the original tweet, the person was saying how they would pay so much money for produce just so they would never have to hear someone speaking Spanish in America again. Wild take. Super bigoted, super racist. We know all the stuff. And Curtis Yarvin's response to this was saying, gee, I wonder if there's another domestic population that is suited towards agricultural work. And if you know about Curtis Yarvin, you know that he's a eugenicist and he's a fucking racist. And a lot of what he talks about is implying that black people in America are specifically suited to the labor that was imposed upon them when they were enslaved. These are the people we're dealing with. And he just implied that if they deport all of the people who are performing agricultural labor in the United States, there will be another population. So he's not saying Americans, because when they say Americans, they mean white people in America. He's not saying Americans, he's saying another domestic population. You know what that means, right? You guys do understand what that means. Like, you understand all of these detention centers. You understand that when they move on from one population within this country, they move on to the next one. Like, you know who that is, right? Y'all know that you're next. I just need you to be prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared. I don't know what to say, but please, everyone needs to take their heads out of the sand. You need to understand that this is the plan. And people think that they are going to be saved because of whatever form of privilege they happen to have, or whatever like monetary kind of things they've accumulated. However, it's wild. That's the wildest take. I don't even know what to say. I'm like at a loss for words, because what? And we're just going to let him say this and no one's going to push back. And I saw one other person talking about this, but like, this is what it is. That's what is happening. So if you think that what is happening with fascist troops running through neighborhoods and swooping people up, kidnapping people without due process, without checking papers, if you think that that is not going to affect you because it's another population, you are sadly mistaken, and you are about to be like sideswiped really, really quickly. Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
And now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
So my good sis J-Doll says she wants to see the clip. She said, let me see the clip. Ask and you shall receive.
Back to their country with a pass back in legally, and we're doing things that are very difficult to do and very complex, but it works really well. We're sending them back, and then they're schooling, they're learning, they're coming in legally. We have a lot of that going on, but we're taking care of our farmers. We can't let our farmers not have anybody, these people, that you can't replace them very easily. People that live in the inner city are not doing that work. They're just not doing that work. And they've tried, we've tried, everybody tried. They don't do it. These people do it naturally. I said, what happens if they get it to a farmer the other day? What happens if they get a bad back? He said, they don't get a bad back, sir, because if they get a bad back, they die. I said, that's interesting, isn't it? These are very, in many ways, they're very, very special people. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so now that you have actually heard the clip, that you've heard the recording for yourself, let's actually break down exactly what Donald Trump has said so far. He started off that clip or that recording stating, oh, how, they have policies and plan of trying to help the farmers, right? Because they desperately need these migrant workers. They need these undocumented migrant workers. They can't leave them without anybody. That right there is admission that the United States agriculture economy is taking a hit behind his policies and his mass deportations. That's the first thing. Donald Trump stresses the fact that the American farmers cannot be left without anybody. They cannot be left without anybody. And then he further goes on by saying that the undocumented migrant workers that he once was calling illegal criminals are very, very special people. They're very, very special people that cannot be easily replaced. Right after Donald Trump makes that statement and say that they cannot be replaced easily, he goes right into stating that people, inner city people, are not doing that work. Words have meanings, okay? When it comes to this government and this American society, when they say inner people, they're referring to Black people. And when he said that kind of work, he's talking about field work. In addition to him stating that inner city people will not be doing that kind of work, he goes on by saying that I've tried, we've tried, everybody's tried. Do you know who everybody is? The American government, white supremacy. And do you want to know what their version of trying was? DEI eliminations. DEI eliminations. And not just that, but the undoing of so many policies and acts that actually allowed for Black people to have equal footing amongst white people in certain areas, in certain spaces. The elimination of DEI programs and incentives were intended to push Black people out of the spaces that white people deemed should only be for them. And I'm talking about admin jobs. I'm talking about jobs in medicine, in accounting. They wanted Black people to go back to back-breaking work, okay? Being in the fields, hospitality work. That's what they wanted. As of right now, 300,000 women have been displaced from employment, okay? They have lost their jobs. And they thought, and when I say they, this white supremacy American government thought that those 300,000 Black women were going to go back into the field. Instead, they got creative. And so with all of these mass deportations, they thought that they were going to be able to fill the roles with their original laborers, okay? Their labor workers, Black people. Now, see, if there's only two things that you take from this video, the first thing that I want you to take away is the fact that America's success is directly dependent on its labor, free labor, an amount of free labor that they're able to exploit from the citizens, okay? And the second thing is that Black Americans will always be their first target. That will always be their first target. When they think about getting free labor, exploited free labor, they will always think of Black Americans. Do you understand the level of hatred, jealousy, animosity that you have to have, that this American Constitution has to have to literally pick at one group of people forever, to the point where they are willing to wipe out all other races to try to get this one race of people to bow down? And they refuse. They refuse. You guys, America, had labor that you were already exploiting, but you were willing to get rid of them in mass deportations, all because you wanted to push Black people out of those offices. You wanted to push them out of those doctor coats and those labs. You wanted to push them out of those research trials. You wanted them to be in the field. So you got rid of the migrant workers that were here that you were already exploiting, because if that's one thing that America knows how to do, is exploit some fucking labor. You already had it, but you got rid of them, hoping that you can force Black people back into those positions. And now because Black people said, let it all fucking burn. Let it all fucking burn. Before you come and get me, let it all burn. Now that Black people have actually said that and stood on that, you guys are realizing how fucked you really are. White supremacy, white American supremacy is realizing how fucked they really are. Because how many black people do you know was opening up their mouth to say that, yeah, these immigrants, these migrant workers are taking our jobs? Not one black person. Not one black person said that. And by the way, that's what they meant when they were saying black jobs. Hospitality, cleaning people's homes, taking care of people's kids, picking berries. That's what they wanted as black jobs. They don't want us to be engineers. They don't want us to be doctors. They don't want us to be comedians. They don't want us to be anything. They don't want us to do nothing but work for them. And now because of America's racism and all you MAGA supporters that went and voted in hopes of making America great again, which really means white people in the office, black people in the fields. All right? You guys are actually really realizing how much you fucked yourselves over. You really fucked yourselves over. Racism is expensive. It's really fucking expensive. They say that with each great empire comes a great fall. And it looks like America's on its way.
Are being hurt badly by, they have very good workers. They've worked for them for 20 years. They're not citizens, but they've turned out to be, great. And we're going to have to do something about that. We can't take farmers and take all their people and send them back because they don't have maybe what they're supposed to have, maybe not. And you know what's going to happen?
Oh, we're great workers now. And we're not criminals. We're great. And maybe we should have citizenship after 20 freaking years of putting food on the table. Oh, I guess you fucked around and you found out and then businesses were on his ass. I have no doubt about that because they fucking realized that ain't nobody doing the work that Hispanics do. Period. On that.
They think the work is so hard until they just turn around and they up and quit.
On the farm fields of Alabama, the verdict is in. The state's tough immigration law just isn't working out.
They're putting Alabamians back to work in my area. Experience I've had, they ain't too good at what they do.
Keith Smith says most immigration workers left after the law took effect. So this potato farmer hired Americans. Problem is, he says, most show up late, work slower, and are ready to head home after lunch. Some even quit after just one day out in the field.
There's a Hispanic man that works for us, and I say, he's 52, and he'll make anywhere from $70 to $100 a day. I said, if you can keep up with him and do a good job, you can make that. But they're not physically in shape to do it. And, probably not mentally tough enough to do it, some of them.
Over on this tomato farm, the story's not much different. Brent Smith may be the only exception.
The bending over, and if you're not used to working and kneeling down and bending over and constantly up and down all day long, is the grueling part of it. It really is. I mean, other than that, it's not any harder than anything else you do with it.
With a 9.9 unemployment rate, Alabama is almost 1% higher than the national average. Tomato farmers say skilled workers can make anywhere from $200 to $300 a day, but unskilled workers make much less. And farmers say many Americans are not physically fit and simply don't work fast enough.
It's just going to take body conditioning, mental conditioning, in order to earn enough money to make it worth a day's work.
Well, breaking fuck the news, and good morning. Arkansas, Indiana, Idaho, Iowa, Utah, and Nebraska have all announced that in the beginning of 2026, excuse me, I forgot to put this on, I apologize, all said that in the beginning of 2026, your SNAP benefits in those states will no longer be able to buy soda, candy, most junk foods. There will be actually a certified list of things you will not be able to purchase with your SNAP benefits. So if your kid goes to the store with you and goes, Mommy, I want to get a bag of chips, and you have $2 on your SNAP, you have way more than $2 on your SNAP benefits, you won't be able to buy that shit most likely. So welcome to Project 2025. Oh, we're not supposed to say that out loud? I'm sorry.